Right, everyone. Hi. Welcome back to another Connor's Crazy Countdown. It's been a long time. I can't tell exactly how long, but it's been a while. I hope to be doing a lot more of these soon, but uh, I had just recorded this and the audio didn't record so well, so that's why it's already put where they're supposed to be in a sense. I'm just going to talk through each film or whatever and say really why I've put them in the section. Our future episodes of this will not be like this. Hopefully, I will actually do it alongside it. So yeah, I've made a section down at the bottom for ones that I haven't seen or films that I really can't remember. But I put Father's Day at the top because I really do want to see that film. We've also got The World According to Gar, Fern Gully, The Last Rainforest, Popeye, Best of Times, absolutely anything, which was his last movie, sadly. And I think for a last movie, it was just quite a sad send off in a sense because it's not particularly good as far as I'm aware. Being Human, Boulevard, The Death of Smoochie, Big White, House of D, Seize the Day, The Big Wedding, The Night Sleepers, The Night Stalk. I think it's The Night Sleepers. Um, The Night Listener. Right, The Night Listener. Where is it? Night Listener. And Insomnia. Now, Insomnia, I think I saw, but I cannot tell you anything that happened. I can barely remember it at all. It's just a guy that has trouble sleeping, as far as I'm aware. Jacob the Liar again. I think I saw this, but I can't really remember it. Final Cut I saw, but I can't remember it. As for the rest of these, well, will we work our way up? I think we will. We'll leave the best to last. So we'll hide that just now, even though you've already seen it. So our first film here is Happy Feet 2, but we're going to start with Happy Feet, right? Happy Feet wasn't like Robin Williams' film in a sense. It was more so Elijah Wood, I think, or whatever. But Robin Williams had quite a small role in this, but I've to conclude it anyways because Robin Williams probably was like the best part of the movie in a sense. I absolutely hate Happy Feet. I hate Happy Feet 2, despite actually owning Happy Feet on DVD. I've never particularly liked it. I also used to think that the main character Mumble was called something else, so that also put me off the film. But I genuinely do not like this movie, and I do not like its sequel at all. So that's why they're down here. Fair enough. The next film is Flubber. Now, Flubber I've seen a few times before, but it's really, I think it is based more so for children. It's very dumb comedic in a sense. It's got stupid slapstick. Yeah, no, it's not got stupid. It's got stupid humor in it. That's just dumb rubbish humor. But genuinely, I think that Robin Williams' character in this is an absolute jerk. He tries to marry his fiancée multiple times, but he's always busy and finds that like in real life, that's just ridiculous. So it's horrendously dumb for that in that sense. And even at the end, when it's all happy and all, he still doesn't make his wedding. As a heads up as well, spoilers, lots of spoilers. So you should expect spoilers when I'm talking about movies here. But he doesn't make his wedding. It's ridiculous. So that is why it's down here in disappointing / bad. I just genuinely do not care for Robin Williams' character in this at all. I think he has far too many chances, and he's just, oh, it's annoying, right? The bad guy in it's quite good though. Who I think he was also a bad guy in Happy Gilmore, so that's good. Right. Next, we've got the underwhelming line. So these are ones that I've seen that I think potentially could have had a bit more stuff around them, a bit better. Fisher King, I've only seen once and I barely remember as well, but I vaguely remember, I think it's set in New York, and I think that Robin Williams' guy is homeless, but he tries to get a job or something like that. There's something along those lines. But like I say, I can't really particularly remember a lot about it, so therefore it didn't really stand out, therefore it's underwhelming. But yeah, I think it has potential for me to see it again. I need another look at it to truly but from what I remember, I didn't particularly care for it. Next, we've got Moscow on the Hudson, which I've only seen a couple of scenes of, but what I saw was relatively boring. I didn't care for it much. I think Ron Williams' character is Russian, as far as I'm aware. I think that's the case of it, and he's coming to America for a fresh start. But this was also like one of Robin Williams' first movies where he was still trying to find his feet, in a sense. He was still getting moving forward. He wasn't particularly funny in this, I don't think. This is a more serious film to some regard, but I just genuinely didn't really care for it that much. Next, you might be thinking, why is such a big movie down this far? And the reason being is I didn't particularly care for this movie. This is Good Will Hunting, starring Matt Damon and Robin Williams, and also starring Ben Affleck as well. But it's this film hundreds of people love. They call it amazing. They call it a lot of different things, like it's all this and it's all that. I've seen it twice or three times, and I've never really come away from it thinking I really enjoyed watching that. It is nice to see Robin Williams do something a little bit more serious, but still I just didn't care for it. And this is totally my opinion. You can disagree with me all you like you have your own opinion, I have mine. It's fair enough. And another thing is I might change my opinion like in a couple of months or something. This is just for now. This is my opinion at this current moment in time. But for now, I do not really care for Good Will Hunting. It is a fine movie if you like that sort of thing, but I genuinely didn't get into it that much. So yeah, moving on. Um, well, I can barely even tell you much about what it's about. I think Matt Damon's character was somewhat smart or something, and he was quite good at writing, and then he got talking to him. I remember him talking about his wife a lot. Uh, Definitely probably needs another watch, but every time I watched it, I've never been into that much. Next, we got Aladdin and the King of Thieves. So there was three Aladdin movies. There was Aladdin, there was Return of Jafar, and there was Aladdin, the King of Thieves. Aladdin, Return of Jafar, Robin Williams was never in, but he came back with this. Robin Williams in the movie was relatively good, but the movie itself is not particularly amazing by any means. It's fine for a sequel. I did talk about it a bit in my Disney sequels video, my Connor's Crazy Countdown of that, but yes, it's not a really good movie by any means, and there's no way this would be top of the list. Like, there's just genuinely no way it would be up to the top. Fine for what it was. Robin Williams did a good job, but the movie itself, not particularly good. Next, we've got Old Dogs, another movie which I can't really remember that much. I believe I have seen it, I think, 2 or 3 times, but it basically, I think it's Robin Williams and John Travolta. I think they're quite old now, but they used to be cool, and now they're not so much. I think that's it. They work together. I vaguely remember this movie. So this genuinely, it's in this area underwhelming, because I do think what I remember is I wish there was a bit more pizzazz to it, in a sense. Just for what it was kind of lackluster. But yeah. And now we've got Toys, which is another renowned Robin Williams film. It's one of those films that a lot of people look at and they're like, that's a Robin Williams movie. We know that's a Robin Williams movie. It's, yeah. But I didn't really care for this that much. I thought going into the movie I was going to get a lot more from it. Like with a movie title like Toys, I just thought, oh, it's going to be a heck of a lot more exciting than this. It was fine. It did its job. It just felt though that it was missing a whole lot of stuff to it. What I remember about it is that the character that Robin Williams plays basically becomes the new heir or something to the toy factory, toy museum, toy whatever. I think he also has a sister. And then there's a general. It's just vague memories of it. It doesn't particularly stand out to me. Obviously, the name of it, Toys and Robin Williams, that stands out, but the film itself, not very memorable. Next, we got some worth watching. So these are ones that I think are definitely worth a watch, and you can make your own opinion from there, whether they're good or not. But I think these are all worth a watch at some point, in some sort of way or something. So first, we've got Patch Adams. Now, Patch Adams is another quite opinionated film of Robin Williams, where a lot of people love it, a lot of people hate it, a lot of people do not think it lives up to the true story. I myself had never looked at the true story, so this was my first introduction to it, which is not really a good thing to do, but it was an alright portrayal. I liked it. I obviously know there's a lot of things that were missing out from the real story, and there was a lot of things that changed. But this is just like, if you take away the whole fact that it's about a guy called Patch Adams that was a funny doctor or whatever else, if you just look at it as a Robin Williams performance, it's really quite good in that sense. He's pretty funny in this. He lives up and he makes you feel good. I've only seen it a handful of times again, but it's like I say, it's worth a watch. But I myself, I would have never have put this at the top. It's a good movie. It just isn't sensational by any means. Next, we've got the third film in the Night at the Museum trilogy. This is way down here because out of the three, this was my least favourite. And this was one of Robin Williams' last performances as well. Like, one of. I think this may be about his third or his fourth last film. But this is Night at the Museum, Secret of the Tomb. So this takes place in Britain, in London, in the National History Museum, I think. But the only thing that I really liked about this movie, in a sense, was just to have the characters back. So we had Ben Stiller, and we had Robin Williams, we had Rami Malek, and we had I can't even remember what the rest of the characters are, but we had Princess what's her name? Oh, well, we had the characters back anyways. But yes, when I think of Theodore Roosevelt, though, now most of the time Robin Williams is like the first image I get of it. He's just a perfect look-alike guy to play that sort of character. But as for the third film, not particularly good, so that's why it's down here. Next, we've got License to Wed, another film that I've only seen a couple of times. I can't really remember a whole lot about it, but basically John Krasinski and I think, is it Mandy Moore? It is Mandy Moore. Hey, well remembered. So Mandy Moore and John Krasinski, I can't remember their characters' names, but the two of them are looking to get married, and Robin Williams is their priest, their reverend, their whatever you want to call him. He makes it very difficult for the two of them to get married. I think what the basics is he has a whole lot of rules or something that John has to fill out and before they get married. So it's funny in that sense. And the whole time Robin Williams also has a sidekick with him, which makes it a little bit funny too. But it's worth a watch. Again, I'd probably put this more on the lower tier. I'd put it like in underwhelming and things like that. But it's worth a watch at least once. Our next film I've only seen once, and I desperately want to see again because I can't particularly have a big long memory of it. The only part of this film I remember the most is around about the end when he's in the court and things are happening in there. That's the most memory I have of it. But the film was Man of the Year, and I do really want to see it again. But that's why it's worth a watch. Just whatever. Next, so these are all movies I definitely have memories of. I definitely remember seeing. So this is The Angriest Man in Brooklyn, who is Robin Williams in this case. And we've got quite an all-star cast. We've got Mia Kunis. Yeah, Kulis. I think it's Kulis. Kunis, right. And we've got Peter Dinklage and Melissa Leo. But yeah, in this film, Robin Williams is a very angry man, in case you didn't know. But he does a very good job of that. That's another thing he can show off, that he's not just funny, he can also play a very angry man. And throughout the whole movie, he goes through a really hard time of just having bad luck here and there and having things happen. And in the end, it doesn't particularly end how I thought it would end. It's quite sad in a sense. But yeah, Mia Kunis, I really don't like saying that name, but that's it. Mia K is she is a really good role in this too, and she balances off him. It's quite interesting film, so therefore it's worth a watch. Now we've got some legendary films coming up. We've got Good Morning Vietnam, and the reason this is down this low, is I did enjoy it in a sense, but I just feel I couldn't have put it up at the top. It is one of Robin Williams' probably best performances because he gets to just let loose and be himself and talk on the radio and all that, and Good Morning Vietnam and all that stuff. But yeah, it was a sensational performance by him. The movie itself was all right. Again, I wouldn't have put it up the top. It was a nice movie, but mostly the star of the show was 100% Robin Williams. He took the movie forward. Without him, it would have been a forgettable movie. Uh, but yes, it was a decent enough film, definitely worth a watch. Next, we got Cadillac Man, which I feel is a little bit lesser known of one of his films. Basically, Robin Williams plays a car salesman, and right from the get go in the movie, he attends a funeral where there's a grieving widow, and he asks her, does she want to buy a car? So right from the get go, it's quite a funny setup, and basically at the dealership, he gets some chaos happens between these two characters, and it all goes from there, and it's quite funny and quite interesting what happens between the two of them. Um, Definitely worth a watch. Next, we got August Rush. Now, in this movie, Robin Williams plays quite a minor role, and this is a film that I've seen a handful of times, but I have not seen this film in a very, very long time. It was a nice film, and I genuinely need to watch it again soon, because wow, it's been a long, long time. I think maybe the last time I saw this was probably about 2014 or something, maybe 2015. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but it's been a while. Um, but basically, this boy is homeless, and he wants to find his parents, but he struggles with that. He eventually meets up with Robin Williams, and Robin Williams makes it seem like he's a friendly guy who's helping out and all those sorts, but it turns out he's quite cruel and he's quite mean and he's quite nasty to the boy. Uh, I can't even remember the song the boy plays, but I can't even remember the character's name. But it's the same actor who was in. It's Freddie Highmore, is it? I think that's who it is. Uh, but yeah, it's the same guy that was in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. He's been in a fair few other things. But yes, it was a decent movie. Definitely worth a watch. Next, we've got the second movie in the Night of the Museum trilogy. I definitely preferred this one to the third one. Again, it was just fun to have all the characters back. We also got a funny new character, the dad of Rami Malek, who's played by oh what's his name? He does all the voices in The Simpsons. I cannot remember his name right now. Well, he does a lot of the voices in The Simpsons. He does like Mr. Burns, I think. Might be a different guy. I think he used to do Apu, and he did. He's done a few characters, but anyways, he was a funny addition to this film. But obviously, still, Robin Williams was a brilliant portrayal of Teddy Roosevelt. So it was just good to have him back. Worth a watch again. Next, we got the Birdcage. So growing up, there was about five Robin Williams movies that were like my go-to films, the ones I used to watch all the time. So they were like The Birdcage, Jumanji, Mrs. Doubtfire, Hook, and I think one more, something like that. But yeah, so these were like films I saw quite a lot. But basically, The Birdcage is another portrayal that Robin Williams plays out where he shows off he's a well-adapted actor that can play any role. In this, he plays a gay man who's in a relationship with Nathan Lane. I can't remember what Nathan Lane's character is, but the two of them own a nightclub together in Miami, well, Florida, Miami, somewhere that. And Robin Williams has a son with his ex-wife, and he is getting married, and he wants to introduce him to his dad and his mum and all that sorts, but his fiance's parents are a bit backwards, and they don't really like. He doesn't think they'll have a good opinion about the parents if they come across as gay or whatever, so they have to pretend. It's a very, very interesting portrayal, because they try to like put Nathan Lane to the side, like try and get rid of him, but then he comes. Obviously, I'm not describing it very well. You have to see it for yourself. But I genuinely, growing up, this was one of my favourite Robin Williams movies, still is, and I really enjoyed it. Next, we've got RV. So, I got introduced to this probably more so when it came out. And basically, Robin Williams' character in this movie, he wants to spend more time with his family, or at least that's what it seems. Because his family are always on their phones, on their laptops, and whatever else. So he decides to rent out an RV, but it turns out he's got an alternative motive. He is only doing this so he can work on his job, because their actual big family holiday got cancelled, and he had to do that instead. But the whole journey is pretty funny, involving the RV. A lot of chaos happens, a lot of interesting things happen. They also get introduced to a very hilarious family along the way, and the way that Robin Williams and the rest of the family play off them is pretty funny. So it's a good watch, definitely. You have Night at the Museum itself, so the very first introduction of Robin Williams as Teddy Roosevelt. I when I first saw this film as well, I really liked it. I think as time's gone on, I still like it, but it's not like a film I'm going to put on constantly. What I remember most about this is Earth, Wind and Fire at the end of it going, ah, yeah, dancing is the time. Or is it Groove Tonight? No, I think it's Groove Tonight. But anyways, again, just Robin Williams' portrayal of Teddy Roosevelt, perfect, brilliant casting, sensational performance, and once again, awesome film. Need to watch it at some point if you haven't already. And now we're getting to the big leagues. So we've got Jack. Now Jack is, I think, Jack is a very nice film. Basically, Robin Williams' character Jack, I actually know the character's name this time. He is born, and at first he seems perfectly normal, but as time goes by, he ages rapidly. So that by the time he's about 8/9, or however old he was in this movie, he is actually looking like he's about 40/30 something. But again, so he wants to go to school. He desperately wants to go to school, but his parents are a bit reluctant, obviously, because he looks like he's much older than he is. But eventually they cave in, and he goes to school. And at school, he gets bullied in a sense because he's so much older. But obviously, as time goes by, he becomes a much better friend with a lot of people. Things just genuinely turn out nice, and the end is quite sad in a sense, but also sort of good, where they're graduating and Robin Williams is much older now, but still, it was nice to see that he was still alive at that point. But it's a nice film. And I do have to mention, though, the other actor that's in this is he's quite a questionable actor now. I'm not going to say who it is. If you know, you know. But he is obviously done a lot of things in real life, but this is a different, like, the character he plays is different to the person he is in real life, if that makes sense. So his character in it was relatively nice, a decent addition to the movie. In real life, he is not. He is I'll become a horrible person and all that sorts. But yes, Robin Williams, though, golden as always. Right. Next, we've got Dead Poets Society. This is a movie that I think out of most of my Robin Williams movies, I like. I do really like it a lot, but it's not one I tend to watch a lot. It's how do I describe it? It's a decent watch when you watch it, but you would probably watch like 5 other Robin Williams movies before you would watch this one. Basically, Robin Williams is a teacher in this. I think he was an English teacher or something, and there's a lot of boys in it that then become part of something called the Dead Poets Society, and there's a lot of sad things that happen. There's a lot of really sad things that happen in this, but once again, Robin Williams' portrayal of it, brilliant. And he also shows off how good his emotions are in this, and what I think this was also one of his relatively older movies. It was maybe about his 10th film or something, maybe even sooner than that. But it was him still getting better with every step. Right. Next, we've got Bicentennial Man, another really good portrayal of a character. So in this, Robin Williams is a man made of metal, in a sense, a robot, and he's kind of like, I can't remember the time it's set in, but we've got Sam Neill playing a father who has some children and a wife and all that, and they get this man that's made of metal. I think it's the future still, so I think it's maybe about 20 30 or something. Let's just say it's about 2030. Um, it's around about that time. But they get this man, and at that time, it's relatively old fashioned, but he lives throughout all these decades, all this time. He watches his family grow up and loses his family and all that sorts. And by the end, he wants to be a real person so he can die, in a sense, because he's lived so long that he just wants to die. Um, but it's really nice to see the characters grow. It's really nice to see how Robin Williams feels throughout this whole time. The only thing I will say though, because it goes through all these generations, it is kind of long. That's the only uh, complaint I have about it. Okay, next movie, we've got World's Greatest Dad. Now, I saw a movie recently called Dear Evan Hansen, which I feel was a little bit similar to this, where a person in real life came across in a bad way, but then after they had gone, they became a much better person. They were seen as a better person, even if that wasn't the truth, if you get what I mean. So in this film, Robin Williams has a son that does a lot of questionable things, which end up eventually in his demise, and sadly he passes away. But through that, Robin Williams decides he's going to make his son seem better than he is. So he poses as him, writing a lot of different things and all this sorts. People start to grow to love his son. They feel more sorry for him, for the dad, and this dad gets more attention and all other sorts. But it's such a nice thing that Robin Williams does for his son, but obviously it's wrong. But I really liked it, and definitely up there with one of my favourite Robin Williams movies. Just a great portrayal once again, and so on. And now we've got a flip. We've got a completely different role for Robin Williams. So most of the time, Robin Williams tends to play comedic characters, funny characters, etc., etc. But this was one of his first roles as a more serious role. And this is 1 Hour Photo. Now, I do not condone what the character that he's playing does in this film, but in a sense, you can sort of understand why he's doing it. So basically, Robin Williams plays a guy that works in a photo developing place, and a family often comes in to give him their photos. So he develops their photos, and he grows to pretend to be part of their family. He wants to have a family of his own with them, in a sense. He likes their family, he wants to be a part of their family, but obviously he isn't, and that's very creepy in a sense. But you can understand, if he's so alone and all that sorts, that why he would want to do that. And I also saw some behind the scenes footage of this movie where Robin Williams actually had to go away and laugh just so he stayed in character throughout the movie, if that makes sense. So he had to be serious the whole time throughout this movie, whereas he then had to go away, have some few breaks, and just laugh. You get my point? But I really like this. I think his name was Sal or something like that. Can't particularly remember, but it is definitely one of my top films. I enjoy it so much, and it's nice to see Ron Williams do something that isn't just funny. But yes, so now we're on to the last row, and these films all are perfecto. So first one is What Dreams May Come. A lot of you might be thinking that's not a particularly good film, but for me, it's definitely one of my favourite Ron Williams movies. I will admit though, I can see why people don't really care for it, but me myself, this is my opinion. Like I said before, I could be totally different to you. This is just my opinion at this current moment in time. It might very well change in the next few months, but for now, this is my opinion. So What Dreams May Come is a story about a dad that sadly loses his children, and he then, I think something else happens to him as well, and he ends up going into a painting, trying to find his children, what's happened to them. Something happens to his wife, and he has to try and get her back. It's a real journey movie, and it's so pretty to look at as he is in a painting. So it's just a very nice looking film. It also stars Cuba Gooding Jr., who plays like his guardian angel in a sense. But again, just a very nice film. A very nice looking film, a very well acted film, and so on and so forth. Next, we've got another film that is very nostalgic to me. This is for a film that I think it's one of the only films I've ever seen in the in the movies multiple times, in the cinema multiple times. No idea why. I just remember going to like some hotels that had a cinema or something and seeing it there, and I've seen it in the actual cinema. I've seen it loads of times. Like, might be one of the films on here I've seen the most. And yes, again, you might think, oh, it's not that good a movie and whatever else, but aside from like Disney at the time, this is one of my most watched animated films, and the film is Robots, in case you couldn't tell. But basically, Rodney Copperwell, that is the blue robot in the picture there. He wants to go to the big city to adapt, to grow, to not be living just in a small town his whole life. So he eventually goes there, and one of the first people he meets is Fender, who is Robin Williams. He used to be called Bumper, but they had to change it when they went to the city. But it's a nice, very fun movie. Like, it's like Lego connects all that stuff in a movie, basically. It isn't, but that's just the feeling it gives me. Or like marbles, it feels so fun. Everything about it is just fun, and then you've got funny bad guys, you've got good music to an extent. It's just fun. I think this movie I could watch like 5 times in a week and I'd still like it, in a sense. It's just there's a whole scene where there's dominoes and they're like growing in size. They then fall apart. It's so well thought out. There's just so many little details here and there that are fun to look at, interesting, and of course Robin Williams' Fender, hilarious. Like, a lot of funny things about that. Next, we've got one of Robin Williams' most renowned movies. Again, this was one of the ones I saw the most growing up, Jumanji. Now, I have nothing against the newer Jumanjis, but they're their own thing. They have no connection whatsoever to this film. This film is a standalone, amazing film. It didn't need any sequels. It didn't need anything like that. So the Jumanjis that star The Rock, they're fine. You can like them all you like, but my go-to Jumanji is 100% the Robin Williams movie. It is amazing. So Alan, I want to say Alan Parr, but it's not Alan Parr. Robin Williams plays a boy called Alan who plays the game of Jumanji and gets sucked into it, into the jungle. He then returns years later when a young Kirsten Dunst and her brother play the game. He comes back and he's all grown up, but he still thinks he's that young boy Alan that went away. And it's just, there's so many emotions throughout this. He has to come to the realization that his family's gone. He then relocates Helen Hunt, who was his girlfriend, like his love interest. They have to they realize the story of the children, why they're the way they are, and things like that. And just, it's exciting as well when they roll that dice and you don't know what's going to come next. I mean, obviously now, years later, you know exactly what's going to happen at what point, whatever else. But it's just awesome. I really enjoy it. It's somewhere along the lines of like an extremely action filled thing. It's quite funny. It's just got everything. So definitely love this movie. Next we got Awakenings. Now, I was only introduced to this film like a couple of years ago, but again, this is one of my favourite Robin Williams movies. So it stars Robert De Niro and it stars Robin Williams. Robert De Niro, it starts off with him back years ago when he was a child, and then an unfortunate accident happens where he ends up not being able to move and not being able to talk. But then Robin Williams years later comes in, does something, he does whatever, and makes him come back to life in a sense. And it just is an awesome journey. Once again, it's very, very nice to watch. It's very heartfelt and all other sorts. And Robin Williams again showing off that he doesn't just do comedy; he can also do serious roles. I loved it. I still love it, and I can't wait to watch it again at some point. Next, we've got Aladdin. When you think of Robin Williams and you think of his voice talents, the first movie that most of the time comes to hit your head is Aladdin. This is by far one of his best performances, obviously, because he just is allowed to get let loose. He just speaks off the top of his head. It's very improvised. It's just an amazing role. Like I said with the King of Thieves, Aladdin, he was okay in that. Like, still one of the best parts of it. But this was his gold mine. This was where he was himself. This was brilliant. Aladdin as a movie itself, yes, it's an alright good movie, but without Robin Williams, the movie probably wouldn't have been as good as it was. I do like Aladdin, I do like Jafar, and I like Iago, Jasmine, Raja, so on and so forth, but Aladdin and Genie, amazing. When I think Genie, I do not think Will Smith. There is no need for a blinking remake when you have such a perfect portrayal of Genie in Robin Williams. He just, oh, I think even growing up, like when I was much younger, I had no idea that Genie was Robin Williams. It just was like, he is this character. Robin Williams is the Genie. Genie is a character. Like, he's real. He's amazing. But yes, like I say, definitely a good watch. Right, last two. So, like I said, there was a handful of movies growing up that I watched: Jumanji, Miss Doubtfire, Hook. So Hook is a really, really, really good story. This is set. So basically, the story evolves around Peter Pan, but it's set as Peter Pan is growing up and he's back in the real world in a sense. So he's now grown up. He has a bank job. He I can't remember what his second name is now, but I think it's Banks. It might be Banks, Peter Banks. Maybe I'm wrong. I can't be certain of that. But he is now grown up. He's quite moody. He's quite unhappy. His children love the old stories of him, and he's all like, "Oh, it's just make believe. It's just this and it's that, and there's no such thing as this." So he's a completely different person now. But he then finds himself sucked back into the world of Neverland, and he then eventually becomes the person he always was, Peter Pan. And it just is such a fun film. Everyone in this as well does a great job. You've got the likes of Bob Hoskins. You've got I can't remember his name, but the guy that played Captain Hook as well. Again, great job. I just wish I could remember his name. Dustin Hoffman. There we go. So we've got Dustin Hoffman, we've got Bob Hoskins, we've got the person that played Tinkerbell was quite famous as well. Can't remember her name. But anyways, everyone's portrayal of their characters was amazing, and I really enjoyed every minute of it. And no doubt about it, amazing film. And last but not least, who could imagine that the top movie would have been Mrs. Doubtfire? When you think Robin Williams, one of the first films that comes to your head most of the time is Mrs. Doubtfire. There is no doubt fire about that. But anyways, this film is not just about a man putting on a dress and pretending to be a woman. The only reason he's doing that is so he can spend time with his children. It's all about his children, his family, his life, his job, all that sorts. It's not just about him wearing a dress or whatever else. Although he does a fantastic job, and he truly makes you believe that this woman could exist. Somewhere out there is a real Mrs. Doubtfire somewhere. This person has to be real. But you've also got an all-star cast in this as well. You've got Mara Wilson, you've got Sally Field, you've got Pierce Brosnan. Like, just a great film. And even years later watching this, like constantly watching it, like I could watch this once a month or something and it'd still be hilariously funny. The jokes still stand up today. It's amazing. Oh, love this movie. And with that is the end of our list. So our top 5 are our top 7 even: Mrs. Doubtfire, Hook, Aladdin, Awakenings, Jumanji, Robots, and What Dreams May Come. Like I said, you can have a totally, completely different opinion to me if you wanted, but for now, this is how I feel. This is my final cut, as it were. Ha 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 ha. This is what makes me happy. Feet. And who gives a jack about the robots that you might be, or I don't know what I'm saying anywhere. But anyways, I hope you haven't liked this, and hopefully there will be a few more of these coming out, like the likes of Jim Carrey movies, Adam Sandler, Ben Stiller, Will Ferrell, etc., etc. But for now, that's the end of this episode, and until next time, whatever I play, bye.